Arsenal beat Tottenham. In other news, water is wet. Arsenal always beat Tottenham, but the nature of this victory could be so consequential come the end of the season. Think about the significance of going to your biggest rivals, scoring 4, shutting them out when people were suggesting that there could be a bit of jeopardy around the game. Like scoring 4 goals against your biggest rivals away from home is obviously inspiring, but it's the specifics. It's the specifics about what occurred during that 90-minute period that tells us a lot about Arsenal Football Club moving forward this season. I think that we can distill this victory down to 3 people. I think that we need to praise 3 people. Of course, it's a team effort, but there were 3 shining stars in the Arsenal setup, and this should be so invigorating for Arsenal, because the 3 superstars of the day are the exact 3 people that you want to have shined. Now, before I tell you who these 3 people are, can I ask you a massive favour? If you're enjoying this video, could you please give it a like, and please do click subscribe. I am dreaming of hitting 400,000 subscribers. That's the land of milk and honey, and if you would be kind enough to subscribe, it would really help me out. Thank you very much. So the 4-1 victory in N17. It can be distilled into 3 people. 3 people deserve the praise, and it is exactly what Arsenal fans want to hear. Those 3 icons are undoubtedly Viktor Gyokeres, Eberechi, and crucially, Mikel Arteta. That's right. I think that we have to give Mikel Arteta so much credit for that performance. It was exactly what they needed. They were brave, they were bold, and they went for the jugular. Mikel Arteta is a manager that has been slightly negative. He is a cautious manager. He is a safety-first kind of manager. And he went into this game at Tottenham under a lot of pressure. Arsenal were dropping points. They weren't looking robust. They were playing a Thomas Frankless Tottenham, which was going to be invigorating for them, regardless of how good Igor Tudor was. It felt like there was pressure on them. It felt like there was jeopardy around the result. And it felt like Mikel Arteta had some genuine questions to answer. Now, the way that he answered them, bringing Leandro Trossard and, more crucially, Eberechi back into the fold, was genius. Now, secondly, the man himself. Eberechi deserves so much credit here. He's a true professional and a wonderful footballer. I genuinely believe that he is one of the best players in the league. I know that he hasn't been demonstrating that form, and I know that there are question marks about this move. Did Arsenal sign the right man? But for me, he's just a class act. He plays football in the way that football should be played. The way that he glides with the ball, the way that he can take players on, the arrogance, the chip on his shoulder. It's exactly what you need. Eberechi is the kind of player that will drive Arsenal to a title if Mikel Arteta allows him to do it. And it's looking like Arteta will. And thirdly, now this is huge, it's Viktor Gyokeres. We have to discuss the brilliance of Viktor Gyokeres. Now, up until now, I don't feel like Viktor Gyokeres has looked like a title-winning centre-forward. He doesn't look like a title-winning striker. And I would have argued that if Arsenal were to win the league, and I felt like they would win the league, even with Viktor Gyokeres in the side, I felt like they were going to win it almost in spite of the contribution of Viktor Gyokeres. I felt like Arsenal was so good, they were so strong, they were so solid, they had such a good spine, that almost irrespective of their centre-forward, they were the best team in the country. They weren't going to win the league because of Gyökeres. They were going to win it in spite of him. However, suddenly, we aren't having to praise his work rate. We aren't having to praise the way that he brings others into play. Even his teammates were doing that at one point. Now we can praise his play and his goals. We can praise his footballing ability. He was the difference. If you try and analyse what the difference was between Arsenal and Tottenham, now there's a chasm between the clubs, there's a gulf in class, but the way that it played out on the day, it was because of the brilliance of Gyökeres that we saw quite how good Arsenal were, scoring twice at White Hart Lane and being trouble throughout, being constantly on the defender's back, making life so difficult for Dragusin, making life so difficult for Archie Gray, constantly being intelligent and bringing others into play. Viktor Gyokeres finally looked like a real player. Now, how perfect is this for Arsenal? To have won a game of that magnitude when 2 of your slightly underperforming players shine. It's a dream come true situation. Now, look, I've been arguing that one of the reasons that Arsenal will not win the league, if indeed they don't win it, will be because of their lack of ambition, their lack of aggression, their lack of spark, their lack of ingenuity, their lack of creativity. Now suddenly, with a player like Eberechi pulling the strings and a player like Viktor Gyokeres leading the line, suddenly their forward-thinking creative genius is playing to full fruition. Now, this is bad news for Man City and fantastic news for Arsenal. Because up until this point, we would have been asking the question, can you win a title simply by having the best defence in the league? Can you defend your way to a title, or do you need to go and claim a title? Can you win a league without having a particularly eye-catching ability in the final third? I would argue probably not. But all of a sudden, we don't need to be asking that question anymore. Because Eberechi Eze's confidence will be sky high, and Viktor Gyokeres is finding form right at the right time. Like, he's in double figures now. Now, just for comparison, think about the way that we talk about maybe Hugo Ekitike, or the way that we talk about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. We have been glowing in our references about them. We have been acknowledging their contribution to this Premier League season, and in Hugo Ekitike's case, calling him one of the best signings of the summer. They are now level on goals, Gyokeres and Ekitike. So he is now comparable to a very good signing, no doubt about it, in terms of the stats at least. And it's the way that he's bringing others into play. Look at that deft touch that allowed Eze to score that goal. Simply perfection. And the fact that Gyökeres is finding form now is huge, because he has now scored 8 goals in his last 12 games in all competitions. What a time to find form, Viktor Gyokeres. And Gyökeres was so intelligent. He exploited their left channel superbly. The way that he used his body, the way that he was robust, the way that he bullied that Tottenham back line. Now, that is something that Arsenal fans haven't seen enough of. Viktor Gyokeres, he has presence, he has power, he has stature. Why is he not bullying opposition defenders? Why? Suddenly we saw it, and he did it in such an intelligent way. I think he realised that Van der Ven was a presence. Van der Ven is an excellent defender. So he simply swerved him. He simply went over and outthought, outmuscled the likes of Dragusin and the likes of Paulinho. Paulinho was given a torrid time. Every single time the ball was played into Viktor Gyokeres, he had the guile, he had the ability, he had the strength, and he had the wherewithal to find an Arsenal teammate. Paulinho couldn't cope. Dragusin couldn't cope. The mistakes that we saw that Tottenham line make, the mistakes from Dragusin, for example, they were a byproduct of the pressure that Viktor Gyokeres was putting him under. And then think about that second goal that he fired into the top corner. Think about what he did to Archie Gray. Now, I'm not having a pop at Archie Gray here. He's a kid, he's learning, he's developing, and he's obviously nowhere near the powerhouse that Viktor Gyokeres is. But I like the fact that there was no mercy. I like the fact that Viktor Gyokeres just shrugged him off, powered through, bullied him out the way, and launched it into the top corner. It actually reminds me of a goal that Mohamed Salah scored when Dan James was chasing him. Do you remember that? Dan James was trying to get back to Salah, actually tried to foul Salah, and Salah was just unstoppable. He was a moving freight train, and that's what Viktor Gyokeres was like. And the fact that he is now finding form at this stage of the season and putting in performances like that and scoring goals of that calibre, I mean, dare I say it, Arsenal could be going into the final 12 games of the season with a title-winning goal scorer leading the line. But it hasn't always been like this for Viktor Gyokeres, and that's why Mikel Arteta deserves so much credit. Arteta has done so well to persevere and to sprinkle this bit of stardust on Viktor Gyokeres, to allow him to find the form now at the most crucial time. Think back to earlier in the season. You know, I remember watching, I think it was the Wolves game. Arsenal played Wolves at home, not the recent fixture, the one at home. And Viktor Gyokeres needed goals at the time. He was playing a team that were bottom of the league. He was playing a team that were almost resigned to relegation that early in the season. And you thought, this is the perfect antidote to the form that Viktor Gyokeres is displaying. This is the perfect opportunity for a player, a centre-forward, playing for the best team in the country, at home against the worst, to go and find some goals. He was abject. He just wasn't involved. Arsenal were playing effectively with 10 men. I remember seeing a stat towards the end of that game. He had one shot on target. I think he was taken off after 80 minutes. One shot on target. And that wasn't rare. I remember there was a game in Europe. Was it Club Bruges? They played Bruges. And I remember there was like a damaging stat for Viktor Gyokeres. I think Viktor Gyokeres played 2/3 of the game. Gabriel Jesus played 1/3 of the game. And Gabriel Jesus came on and had more touches in half an hour than Viktor Gyokeres had in an hour. I also will admit that it's hard. It's hard to be a new centre-forward going into an excellent set team, a team that know their role. It's not easy to go into that. It's not easy to come to a new league. It's not easy to come to a new country. I get that. And also, we have to acknowledge that there is an element of sympathy for Viktor Gyokeres. Remember, he had that really good half against Burnley. and then he got injured. You know, the timing of that injury off the back of his best half up until that point, suddenly he gets injured. It really did stifle the momentum. And then, obviously, Mikel Merino comes into the team. He comes into the team, he leads the line with aplomb. Arsenal batter Bayern Munich with Merino up front. They then batter Tottenham with Merino up front. And suddenly it's not looking good for Gyökeres at all. But quite often when the ball's played into Viktor Gyokeres' feet, he didn't do enough. You know, Wolverhampton Wanderers the other night, I remember watching that game, I was like, why is he not doing more? Why is he not holding up the ball? Every time the ball is played into his feet, he seems to be giving it up. And he just couldn't get involved. I think he had 12 touches against Wolverhampton Wanderers at Molineux. Not good enough. But suddenly, against Tottenham, he looked like his old self. You know that ping that he has? Like, I would honestly compare it to one of the best I've ever seen at this. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. You know Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank? There was no backlift. He just had a real ping. He would release the ball and he would almost stun the ball like a snooker shot. Bang! And it would travel at a rate of knots. Gyökeres has got that. He's got that ping. And I know it's difficult to get that shot off when you play for Arsenal because obviously the opposition defend very deep, right in front of... It's hard. But we saw it. That goal where he hit the top corner. You know, Vicario had no chance. It was an excellent finish. And I just think he needs to do more of that. And finding form now. What a time to do it. And then we obviously need to talk about Eberechi. Now, he is just unstoppable. And he could be the answer to Arsenal's lack of spark, lack of creativity. The way that he plays, the way that he moves the ball, the way that he uses his body. I just think that he is the perfect tonic to this functional Arsenal team. There is nothing wrong with being a little bit more ambitious. And now Mikel Arteta, who brought Eze back into the team, has to do something spectacular. He has to rewrite his own book. He has to evolve with the situation. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if it's a midfield of Odegaard, Eze and Rice. But one thing is for sure. You can't drop Eberechi Eze. Eberechi Eze wins Arsenal a league title. He is that kind of player. He is the kind of player that is capable of doing the impossible, doing the unpredictable, making the impossible pass, actually playing the pass that most other mere mortal footballers cannot even see. You need this unpredictable quality in your team. And Mikel Arteta bringing him back in against Tottenham, that must have lit a fire under him. That must have made him realise that it cannot go on. The trudgery of Arsenal at times, the trudgery of Molineux, the trudgery of Brentford. It cannot go on. Saka is a 10. Why are you experimenting with things now? Now, at this stage of the season, the business end of the season is not the time to experiment. You have the answer waiting in the wings. He's been hiding in plain sight the whole time. The answer to the lack of spark at Arsenal is Eberechi Eze. And I think, rather unfairly, Eberechi Eze has a reputation of being a luxury player. Now, of course he is. Of course he does luxurious things. But if I were to ask you, what players regained possession most for Arsenal against Tottenham? What players regained possession most? I will tell you that it happened on 4 occasions. So the winner has 4 times. And there's 3 players on 4. Who do you think they are? The answer, Declan Rice regained the ball 4 times. Eberechi Eze regained the ball 4 times. Viktor Gyokeres regained the ball 4 times. They work hard. They work as hard as other players. They just do it in a slightly different way. Eze starting, Gyökeres firing. My friend, we have a title race. Now, just before we end this video, I have to put my hands up. I have been incredibly harsh on Viktor Gyokeres. I haven't seen much. Like I say, those games, the home game against Wolves, the away game against Wolves, the game in Europe against Bruges, they really did stay with me about him not doing enough and not being there. And like I said at the top of this video, I felt like there was a chance that Arsenal would win the league in spite of their talisman, their supposed talisman at least. Suddenly, a game like Tottenham can be that redefining force. You go away to your biggest rivals and you score 4 goals against them. You perhaps confine them to relegation and you ascend to the top of the league, extending the points gap against Man City. If that isn't the awakening for Gyökeres, for Eze and for Arteta, nothing will be. People have often been saying about Arsenal that there hasn't been enough of a statement result. You know, the way that Man City went and won at Anfield, for example. So far, Arsenal haven't beaten Chelsea. They haven't beaten Liverpool. They haven't beaten Man City. They haven't yet had their statement result. I'm inclined to argue that we saw it yesterday against Tottenham Hotspur. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a like. Please click subscribe. It really does help me out if you would be kind enough to join this community. I'm dreaming of hitting 400,000 subscribers. It's miles away. But if you click subscribe, maybe you help me get there. Thank you so much. And let me know your thoughts on this video in the comment section below. I want to know your thoughts. Has Mikel Arteta perhaps redefined his approach to football? Will Eberechi start more games of football now? And has Viktor Gyokeres turned a corner? Can he be the man to score the goals to win Arsenal their first league title in 22 years? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Ta-da.